everybody, wait a minute. Well, everybody, wait a minute.
Show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh no. Shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh my goodness, I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh my goodness, what's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Tree. I'm taking all three of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh my goodness, behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't gotta look, it's falling. Oh my goodness, this guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
I mix what I like. What's up, good people? I wanted to bring that back just a little bit. What's up, good people? The joint cranked so hard. I could listen to this in a loop all day. And if you have headphones on or good speakers and can hear the little bass in there, let's go. What's up, everybody? Good morning, everybody. Nothing improves my mood more than the pocket. I'm telling you, I get amped. I could be in whatever mood I hear it. And it just, what's up, Geechee? Good morning. Greetings to you.
What's up, man? I wonder if people who not from DMV can appreciate that type of music. Like, because
I don't think so. My experience is no, but
yeah, it's a serious vibe, man.
What up, James? What's going on?
James appreciated. He from Illinois, I think.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. But look, I've been all over the world, met people all over the place, and generally go-go is not appreciated properly outside the DMV. But there are exceptions. And we do have an exceptional audience. So I'm not surprised. And what's up, everybody? Thanks to everybody who's joining us live, those who will see and hear this later. Peace and welcome to you as well. Again, we want to resistance is the call. Black August, all day, every day, really. But definitely want to continue to raise up Black August as we're going to try to do today. Again, So there were some things, Geechee. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I got caught up in some things late last night. So there are a couple of things I'd like to add to the run sheet, so to speak, before we get to the meat and potatoes. Because so much is happening in the world, and so many things keep happening. So I do have, let's see. So first of all, while the family's on vacation, just a little Easter egg for those in the audience. The biggest change to my life, or one of the biggest changes in my life when the family is away, is Black Sunday, track 10. And I'm gonna leave it at that. On a similar note, unfortunately, we did get news, and I was late last night, early this morning, watching Jackie Luqman's discussion of BrittneyGriner's situation. I really like what Jackie has to say. In sum, that the 9-year sentence is a way for Russia to again challenge the United States to give up Victor Bout in a swap, which they have been trying to do since before the trial. And obviously I don't catch all the news being said in the world, but I don't hear anybody else making that particular argument, and I really like it. So that said, in part because it gives some hope that this sentence will not be the final decision on the subject, because 9 years in a Russian prison in the prime of your, or at any point, but in the prime of your life over some weed cartridges is whack. And then I did see the video for a little clip from Lil Boosie, who I have not heard his music at all. But when I saw this, I was like 100%. He said if this was Taylor Swift, the United States would have basically something to the effect of been preparing for an invasion of Russia. You don't agree? You don't want to give him that?
I mean, actually, I gotta be honest. Like, I saw the clip, and I normally get annoyed when celebrities like get this thrust of energy and geopolitics all of a sudden. So I didn't hear that part. I just heard the part where, like, for some damn weed, and then I actually send, every time I saw the video posted, I send people Jackie video. I was like,
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I guess
I just saw the clip in one of my hip hop news outlets, and I liked it. I liked that he was saying that, but I don't pretend to know anything else about the man or his music or anything else. So
he a live wire, man.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm with Quaker Anarchists on this though. Air Force One with it. And then he also said, Kamala Harris, like, you supposed to be a sister in the White House. What's up? All right. Well, okay. So, anyway, so definitely, if you haven't seen it, check out Jackie's discussion of this. It's really dope. Also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think so too. I'm actually curious. I was gonna ask today, like, when her analysis that this time is very similar to the Palmer raids, especially what happened with Uhuru movement. I just was curious what you thought about that. Like, if you kind of see the same thing.
Well, I mean, I do think, and I think Jackie alluded to this or spoke directly to this. I think that I feel like we've never not been in a moment of state repression of the most radical efforts. So I don't want to attempt some sort of comparison between now and another moment. I just think in general, we are getting the version of that we're getting. And wherever those in power can push that button of repression, they will do it. And if it's in BrittneyGriner's situation, they will certainly do it. If it's in another of the situations we're going to quickly mention this morning, they'll do it there as well. And if they can, if they have, so kind of like I was trying to say with O'Malley the other day, is that if yes, the assault on them is obviously traumatic for them, having suffered it, and is meant to repress them. But I think it's also a reminder. It's meant to be a reminder of where everybody. Actually, this is going to come up in a little bit of stuff later on. But it's a reminder of check your lane. And if your lane is too far left, this is what you get. And it's to encourage that middle lane that most are rewarded to stay in, which is soft and reactionary and often stands against progress. So I don't know. That's just, tell me what you think. That's just in short how I'm seeing all of this right now. But go ahead. Yeah.
I also agree in terms of like where people stand, but I think at this point, like the Bootsies and the whoever else speak out of it, this is more of like a reactionary lane. And then I'm not sure, and I think I had some notes about something like this before, like being hard on the other side. Like I think I told you, Charlamagne finally blocked me, and I'm like, okay, sometimes am I, coming too hard, or if I'm responding a certain kind of way, and do we need these people in some kind of way when we know that they are going to be reactionary? They won't go as hard for any other any other political prisoner or any other topic, but this wealthy woman who kind of made some statements that, she I don't want to say a class enemy, but she's not open to our class. When this person is in trouble, the outrage is there for like a week and then, back to some stuff. So I'm not sure that the middle will be even pulled after this. I think it's just kind of like entertainment news.
I hear you. Well, yeah, no, I hear you. With BrittneyGriner, I think yes, in some ways. Well, I think because of what in part, particularly because of the way Jackie laid it out, the BrittneyGriner situation, I don't think fits in with the Omali Yeshitela situation perfectly, or the Uhuru movement situation perfectly. But sort of to my point, they see this as an opportunity to get what they want regarding Russia maintaining hostility with Russia. That is the U.S. not coming to a full defense of BrittneyGriner, because they want to stay and remain hostile. They don't want to have some sort of real diplomacy. And then I think, of course, there is no real will to support a black non-cis woman on top of it. I don't think there's any excitement around that. And then especially if the call from Russia is, we want Victor Bout, they're like, nah, lock her up. Go ahead then. It's like, we'll call your bluff. You go ahead, keep her then. We don't like her that much. And we don't support the WNBA either. It's like, what I mean? It's not like she's LeBron, like actually LeBron, and bringing in billions of dollars for Nike and the NBA. So, anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's one. I didn't want that to be my blind spot either. I know a brother came on Instagram and was saying that we should bring in I think Kimberly St. Julian Varnon, or this black feminist, somebody from the black feminist culture, or I'm sorry, black feminist future. Because I think what they're saying is, when we're talking about it, I posted something that Jackie, I saw it on Jackie's page too, about the comparison between, Russian locking somebody up for a cartridges, as if America don't do the same or even worse for less.
Yeah, I mean, that was Jackie's point. Like she 5% of the world's population, 25% of the prison population. This is a prison state, as she said, a prison colony.
But I think the person was saying, I think if that argument is made, even though no one is saying that we still shouldn't protect her and it still is not wrong, but that statement made the person think like, well, because of her status as a queer or LGBTQ is something that needed to have more focus on. And I think that's why he was saying like we should bring one of those people on to have a more nuanced conversation, or to not miss any gaps per se.
I'm happy to be introduced to somebody. I'm interested in, I'm open to being introduced to somebody and an argument and to see what's what. That's fine. but I don't know how specifically to respond to you should have someone from somewhere. So anyway, if I've seen this correctly, happy birthday, Ricky. Happy birthday. Many more, many more.
OG and older.
Okay. Well, from bad news to worse, we got the word yesterday of the passing of brother AlbertWoodfox. I just want to play a clip of an interview that I was able to get with him and Laura Whitehorn a couple of years ago at the Millions for Prisoners March in DC. Just a quick commemoration, obviously relevant to Black August. Anyway, just to raise him up for a brief moment.
Prison lives matter. I'm so happy to be here. I can't tell you how important this event is. You know, it gives former prisoners and their families and friends an opportunity to speak in one voice. And hopefully the message here today will, spread around America and around the world, and we can start doing something about mass prison incarceration. We can destroy the private prison industrial complex, which is exploiting prisoners, slave labor under the 13th Amendment. We're trying to demand a hearing before a U.S. Congress so that we can address this and make the people in America and the world realize that slavery in America is still here and it's legal. And the 13th Amendment only changes slave ownership from the individual to the states and the federal government. And you have a situation now where these major corporations have started to sign these sweetheart deals with Department of Corrections throughout America, and they are exploiting slave labor. And the ironic thing about it is that while they will exploit the labor while you're in prison, if you're lucky enough to get out, they won't give you a job because you're an ex-convict. How ironic, how hypocritical, And at some
that
point,
you could only work if you're in prison.
Yeah, and as a legal slave of the state, So at some point in time, Robert and I are working towards accumulating a list of some of these corporations and making it available to the American public and call for a boycott of whatever products that these people are selling to the American public and around the world because of the fact that a lot of it is being produced by slave labor in the prisons throughout this country. So that's part of what we're struggling to do right now.
All right, rest in power, AlbertWoodfox. Shout out to Laura Whitehorn as well, and all political prisoners and those who struggle and support them, as we will continue to try to do here in whatever way we can. Anyway, just wanted to do that real quick. Shout out to AlbertWoodfox. So there was also news, of course, of the police who killed BreonnaTaylor being charged. I think Jackie also said a word or two about that I agree with as well. Let's not get overly excited. And it doesn't stop the fact that is also being reported. The police have already killed 700 people just this year alone in the United States. So for all the potential threat of arrest, but for all the potential threat of some marches and some speech making, the police as an institution seem unadjusted. So do you have any thoughts or anything you wanted to add to any of that? I don't really have much more to say about that than that. I just wanted to keep an eye on about that. Yeah, and 700 is what we know about exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, not only what we know about, and then even when they're not, murdering people, I think, especially dealing with our personal case with Asafo, like the negligence and the disregard for life in the event that they are responding to scenes or they're in a situation. So in terms of this win that, again, the middle groups and some of the activists promote. It's unfortunate because you'll get people celebrating as a win, as if the cops are in jail. There's repair going on in the city and all kind of other stuff, but kind of gets numbing to this point of like the injustice system is acknowledging that something happened. They're not charging them yet, but they're acknowledging that something happened, and that we look at that as a win. Is always kind of disheartening.
I agree with dealing with the real on this one, and to Ricky's point about the proposed budget increase. I mean, they obviously need more money and more training because they've only killed 700 people this year. Got to get those numbers up. Got to get those numbers up. Yes, indeed. Rest in power, brother Safo. Yeah. So anyway, the contradictions, the hypocrisies continue. And that's why I think, again, what we're going to end up getting to is still so important, because Black August as a tradition, as a history, needs to be raised up and remembered. But a couple of other things just very quickly. I just saw something very passing last night about the collapse of Nomad, the platform Nomad, which is a platform that allows for people to I forgot what they called it, but it's like it crosses blockchain. It allows you to exchange cryptocurrencies across blockchains and from one currency to the next. And they've lost, I think they've lost almost $1 billion in the last, in part because there was this this impenetrable blockchain, this highly secure protective blockchain. Somebody did a very simple and ridiculous copy and paste coding error that opened up the doors. So the analogy that I heard made was, imagine you go to the mall one day, or you go out shopping one day, and you're walking by an elite store, one of these very ritzy jewelry, clothing stores, something like that. And you're walking by, and as you're walking by, you notice a whole bunch of people running into the store, grabbing whatever they can and leaving. And the guards are there, the cameras are working, but nobody's stopping nobody's worried about it. And for about, I don't know, a couple of hours or several hours, that was in effect what was happening with this Nomad platform, where people were able to just go in and extract any amount or all of these amounts and just take out as much as they could of this pool of ultimately close to $1 billion. And some were hopeful that some people the white hats were stealing it so that they could preserve it and give it back later when the correction was made. Others are clearly like, nah. But the thing for me that is the biggest contradiction in this is that Nomad as a platform, again, from this crypto blockchain space that is supposed to be decentralized, removed from government, removed from the fiat currency and all of that, the first thing that they're doing is going to the federal government and asking for help and getting the money back. And some of the discussion so far is there's no reason why that the government should help, because they're not insured, they're not part of the FDIC, they're not part of a regulated entity, and technically what people did was not illegal. So, but just that, as soon as something happens with the money, now you want the state, now you want the government, now you want some regulation, now you want some fiat, you want somebody to replenish your money in some fiat US dollar currency. And I'm like, okay, anyway, so that was it on that. That was it. I did go back, I did start looking into the Zendaya versus Keke issue again, but I think I'm gonna leave it at what Ricky tagged me on Facebook the other day, saying, showing me a video of KekePalmer shilling for the metaverse, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm not I'm not interested in couching conversations about colorism and whatever else if the context is celebrity and selling Zuckerberg. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. Unless you got something you want to say on that. I don't want to.
No,
You know.
I don't think there's a lot of, especially like Kiki's, these celebrities, I don't think I see them ever in a rational light. Like every time I see Kiki, I only see crazy stuff, and I haven't watched the movie yet,
but in terms of this question of complexion, and now Zendaya, apparently her biraciality being, from what I've seen, dragged through these social media streets. I don't know if this is my sensitivity to the issue, or if this is the moment of comeuppance for us mixed folks are participating in our blackness, and it's just a necessary thing that has to happen. I tend to feel like it's part of that woke imperium where pride in blackness is being preyed upon by state actors to try to dissolve as much unity as possible among Black and African people. But I'm just not, I'm like, what is Zendaya supposed to do? Why is she, when I see a headline that says a couple of years ago, I want to platform Black women, and then she's dragged for being light-skinned and mixed, I'm like, all right, well, maybe I just need to step back and let the new thing shake out where, you know, and I'll get in where I fit in later on. But I'm like, damn. Because when I was coming up, that was the invitation. That was the, like, oh, you're not Black now? You're not supporting Black now? Like, you know, welcome to your Blackness, Brother Jared. Like that was the vibe of the era, or the experience that I had, at least in oversimplification. But it seems like there has been a sea change, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that is what I see, Easy D. But oh damn, you probably right, Big Deal. It's auction blocks, but the symbolism, not the radicalism, but the symbolism was that she wanted to rep for her Blackness and was not being welcomed into that. So I don't know. But if the context is celebrity and metaverse support, it needs to be shifted. So, yeah. I did want to bring this up real quick too, because this is relevant to some of the ongoing work I continue to try to do, and I want to shout out my new favorite white man, R.M. Brown, for putting me onto this story on his platform. But just very quickly, from the other day, when The Intercept reported that Bank of America memo revealed that we hope conditions for American workers will get worse. And this sort of exposes or centers the point I keep trying to make about, again, the woke imperium and its attempt to manipulate various segments of the population, Black people in particular, by invitations towards Black capitalism, entrepreneurialism, discussions of buying power, et cetera, and so forth. When or similarly, in a parallel way, all of the discussions about the economy and inflation are really all meant to mask the elites' ever and ongoing need to, as best they can, manage their exploited populations. So for working people writ large, across races, the goal is always, how do we pay them enough so that they can buy the products that they help produce and keep the economy going, but we don't pay them enough to cut too much into our profits or to give them options such as quitting and retiring. And this memo from Bank of America basically they just got caught, you know, showing their hand. So it's the article in The Intercept from July 29th, Ken Klippenstein and John Schwartz write, a Bank of America executive stated that we hope working Americans will lose leverage in the labor market in a recent private memo obtained by The Intercept. Making predictions for clients about the U.S. economy over the next several years, the memo is also noted that changes in the percentage of Americans seeking jobs should help push up the unemployment rate. Its specific aspiration, that is the memo's specific aspiration, by the end of next year, we hope the ratio of job openings to unemployed is down to the more normal highs of the last business cycle. End quote from their mid-year review. What the memo calls the ratio of job openings to unemployed is generally calculated on the other way around, i.e. the ratio of unemployed people to job openings. The more widely used ratio offers one measurement of the balance of power between workers and employers. So again, they want anyway, the goal is we want more desperate working people, creating that pool, that reserve labor pool that can always be tapped into to drive down the wages of those who actually get hired. Oh, you don't want to work for pennies? Well, we got a whole bunch of people out there who will. And when the ratio gets for them turned upside down, where there's enough where enough jobs are open for enough workers, then the workers start to have too much leverage and start demanding actual, legit pay. In 2009, at the worst moments of the economic calamity that followed the collapse of the housing bubble during the end of George W. Bush's administration, the ratio climbed as high as 6.5. So there were more than 6 unemployed workers for each open job. It then slowly declined over the next decade, reaching 0.08 in February 2020 before COVID-19 lockdowns began. So for their perspective, that's just ridiculous, because you have less than one person per job opening. And that means that person is likely to get a good deal, and those in power don't want that. This recent unusual moment of worker leverage made Bank of America quite anxious. The memo expresses distress about a record tight labor market, stating that wage pressures are going to be hard to reverse. While there may have been some one-off increases in some pockets of the labor market, the upward pressure extends to virtually every industry, income, and skill level. The memo warned of very strong momentum in the labor market, suggesting the economy would not just hit, but blow through full employment. Fast forward to today, and these trends have been worse than expected. Adam Smith was right when he described the politics of inflation in his famed 1776, The Wealth of Nations, in which he also argues and talks about in The Origins of Money, how money was basically just created to manipulate people. High profits tend much more to raise the price of work than high wages, Smith argued. Our merchants and master manufacturers complain much of the bad effects of high wages in raising the price. They say nothing concerning the bad effects of high profits. They are silent with regard to the pernicious effects of their own gains. They complain only of those of other people. Thus, exactly as Smith would have predicted, Bank of America complains loudly about the bad effects of high wages and raising prices, but appears to be silent about the pernicious effects of high profits.
Do you think some of the recent labor unions and movement has make them nervous as well? Like
always.
Yeah.
That's why they work so hard to not only destroy unions, but to destroy the idea of unions. And that's why they deploy so much of again, none of the well-platformed black punditry that you and I and others are critical of, none of them have as part of their courses that you pay for to get rich, organizing a union. Like that's not part of their course work. Like there's no money in telling people to organize unions.
I mean, there's technically I can't remember the actors and the entertainers union. I can't remember the name of it, but a lot of them are a part of it. Like, when I had this conversation with Charlamagne at one point, and he was telling me the union that he's a part of. I can't remember the name of it, but it's some kind of actor union to where they make sure that they're getting these opportunities. But
yeah, it's the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
And then there's the Screenwriters Guild. And I think they have everybody's in it who works. And they all benefit from it. That's why, professional athletes are all in unions. Everybody, when there's a handful of people dealing with real money, they all seem to be, all lawyered up and unioned up. When it comes to a majority of working people who are poor and powerless, they're encouraged to stay powerless and start a small business. You know,
Or
that's
invest a little bit of money they got.
So, but of course, the point here is if you're making, after-tax corporate profits stood at 8.1% of the economy at the beginning of 2020, but have since shot up as high as 11.8% of the GDP. In an economy the size of the U.S., that equals an increase of more than $700 billion in profits per year. So, of course, they don't want to lose any of that by having wages go up and there not being enough competition among working people for jobs to drive down wages. So that's why the memo said raise the interest rates, slow down the economy, make people slow down their buying, make them slow down what they can purchase so that the businesses can cut labor and not have to meet certain production standards, and then let it all settle back down to where everybody's out there desperate. They can lay people off and make people desperate, and so on and so on and so on. That's, so because at the end of the day, whatever anybody says about, in terms of fancy discussion and confusing discussion about the economy and inflation and interest rates, I think it's always important to remember the point is that the management of labor to make sure, again, that people have enough jobs to pay and are paid enough that they can shop, but not paid enough that there's real competition among employers for hiring labor, and they're not paid enough that they can quit and retire, and they're not paid enough to cut into the profits of those paying them. So anyway, I'm glad I saw that. Just a little dig at Democracy Now! Real quick. I saw that on August 1st. I don't watch Democracy Now! Anymore, but on August 1st, I saw that they were featuring their discussion of Black August was centered on the Mother Country Radicals podcast, which is the white, now to be fair. So I'll just show you this real quick. So I was ready to just go in and just start hating. Cause I was like, why is Black August centering a discussion centering white radicals in their podcast history, which in this episode, as you see here, literally has Assata on the cover. But what they do, of course, they interview Dhoruba, they interview Assata's daughter. They talk about the fact that the white left was involved in Assata's escape and had done actions with the Black Liberation Army. So I got to calm down a little bit, but I still think it's odd that for Democracy Now!'s perspective, that they would open up Black August, like that this would be the lane. But fair enough, but okay. But I've always complained that the white left don't hold up their own white left traditions. So, I'm going to leave it there at that. It's funny you say that R.M. Brown, I would have sworn was a Jew. He's got all the Jewish affectations and styles of humor, but he says he's an Italian. So, he's always talking about his Italian and his conservative Catholic mother and father and all that kind of stuff. I was sure. I was like, that's my mother's people for sure. But he says he's not, because he's got that whole like kind of a little bit of a New York Jew type of humor too. And he drops in his little Yiddish phrases and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, no, I know Italians can be Jewish, but Jews wouldn't refer to themselves as Italian. That wouldn't be their primary. And he would have said he's a Jew, and he said she's Catholic. So, I mean, I suppose Jews can be Italian Catholics too, but
apparently it's hard to keep up with some of this stuff. But I saw an email from a Black, I guess it's philanthropic organization or organizer that is actually Black philanthropy and Black Business Month as well in August. So I'm nervous
wow.
to see how they're gonna use Black August with Black philanthropy and Black business.
Uber cars. Yes, exactly. No, I hear you. Yeah, that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. Speaking of which, I got something for that in a second, actually. But just real quick, a couple of just real quick pop culture things that maybe we can come back to later. I saw Adam Sandler's new film Hustle, and my one note on that is it's repackaged nonsense about Black people being entitled, trash talking, and not hardworking. And feeling and have it and how Black people should feel a sense of gratefulness at having an NBA to go to, and then Black people become the background, the antagonists, the magic Negroes who help the white Spaniard protagonist overcome his hurdles and Adam Sandler overcome his. And because they get real slick and they give Adam Sandler Queen Latifah and their little brown biracial daughter, they get, they get away with a lot of stuff by doing that in this film. And it's good. I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, I think Adam Sandler, whatever, knows how to tell a story, knows how to make a movie. It was very well done. I think they got the basketball scenes. They did good with that. They push all those sports emotional buttons. They do all of that. But I was like, hold up. It's the same thing. Even when they're in Spain and the white boy is playing in the park, in the street, it's the brash, Black, trash talking brother that he has to shame. That's the first step that shows Adam Sandler that he's going to be a superstar. That while the brother is all emotional and this and that, and he sees the white boy staying calm, although that becomes an issue later on, no spoilers. But it's that what shows Adam Sandler, oh, he's not just going to fall for the trash. He's not just going to trash talk and that. And I was like, really? So like Biggie used to say, all we have is what was it, rap and basketball. We don't even have basketball anymore and don't even have rap. So, and then the other thing I started watching the series RapShit about the two sisters who form a rap group. And it's supposed to be this look at the hip hop industry and the struggles of a conscious rapper versus, I guess a trap rapper. And it's not without its talent or skill or interest. I mean, it's not horrible, but the one thing, again, there's still no politics of popularity or an understanding of how wants are created. So we still get one of those same lines like, niggas don't want conscious rap. Niggas don't want to hear it. They just want bitches shaking their head. And if I don't have my titties out, they don't want to hear what I have to say. And I'm like, oh, but if to the extent that is true, how are those wants created? And to what extent did the industry create that so that your progressive political consciousness can't be included? They don't get into that. So, or haven't yet. They show no signs of that. So I was like, all right, let me just check it out. Anyway,
I've been trying to branch myself out to watch more shows and TVs. Jackie them tried to convince me to watch Walking Dead, and I tried and just couldn't stay with it. But I did watch this on HBO, the Lakers story. Did you catch that? It's like Jerry Buss, and did you watch that?
I watched the whole thing. Yeah.
What do you think about that? I kind of saw it.
I thought it was funny, and I thought it was well done, and I thought it was going to make everybody mad, and it did. Apparently everybody who was portrayed in that in the real life character, everybody's upset.
Magic didn't like his either.
I don't think so. I think I saw somewhere where he was saying because it was a lot of the womanism. I mean, they show him, sleeping with his girlfriend's best friend. I mean, it's they got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar doing his fake Black radicalism with his white girlfriend. I mean, they got it's a lot.
Yeah.
They show old boy getting strung out on crack and threatening, which apparently was a true story, threatening to kill one of the coaches. I mean, it's so.
Allen has been on there. What's that? Debbie Allen husband?
Norm Nixon.
Yeah.
He's in there. And I saw where he was critical of it too. I don't think it was like he wasn't going too hard, but he was just talking about what scene, like a lot of the scenes, and it didn't happen. The whole scene where he played one-on-one at a party with Magic, with the rookie, like that didn't happen. Like he was like that stuff didn't happen. But you know, it was entertaining. You know, I mean, it was, you know, but there was no. Yeah, I mean, it didn't do anything else. I didn't, you know, it didn't. It showed the owner of my former football team, who at the time before Buss owned the Lakers, Jack Kent Cooke owned them, and they showed him accurately being anti-woman and probably not racist enough. But you know, oh, I haven't even heard about this. What's Aftershock? I'm too busy watching this anarcho-capitalist joint where the white folks thought they were going to free themselves in Mexico, and it didn't go that way. I hate to say, I'm just having too much fun watching that joint. The collapse of that whole movement is hilarious to me. But anyway, yeah, you know, but that was it. I didn't see anything, you know. I don't know. In that Lakers thing, I just enjoyed it for what it was, and anyway, real quick before one last thing here, related to that point about the economy. Forgive me for forgetting who sent this to me, but I'm glad that they did. Something I had looked at a little bit before, and even had been in some dialogue with diaspora Africans over there in the UK. Encouraging them to watch out because the same thing was being done. But this new Black Pound report shows up 4.5 billion pounds of multi-ethnic consumer disposable income is being ignored. So it's like the internationalism of Black buying power, and it's the same nonsense. So now, with one important caveat, I could not afford the cost of the report itself. I was willing to pay $125 for that Selling Center report, which was a stretch. But anyway, what this is just showing is, I'll come to that in just a second. What this is just showing, again, it's the same nonsense. Black people and so-called people of color are spending X amount of dollars on health and beauty. They're spending where else was it saying? I don't know. And then it looks at the whole thing about a little bit of the psychology of including multi-ethnic and LGBTQ overtures, and not letting those communities get away with their dollars. The value of being diverse in your advertising. But I couldn't afford the report, Geechee, because when I looked at the numbers, I got the numbers right here. To buy the full report, it costs 1,995 pounds, which I did a quick conversion, comes to $2,423.20 in US dollars. I will never be able to afford that. And of course, the purpose of that, the point is that the cost of that is for major corporations and ad buyers wanting details on how to target particular parts of the community. It's not meant for people like me to assess the nonsense of the methodology and the false claims attributed. So it's clearly meant successfully. Good job. They did a good job, because I was willing to pay $125 to show that the Selling Center's report is nonsense, but I'm not willing to spend $2,400. I don't have $2,400, willing or not. I don't have it to spend on one report, which will ultimately show to be the same nonsense. It's not an assessment of people's actual economic condition. It's a broad measurement of where people spend their money, which is good for advertisers, but not good for helping people understand the actual economics of the situation or the economy. So, all right. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes. I got a couple things to bring up. Unless you had something on that you wanted to say, let's get to the good stuff. Go ahead.
You do know Kehinde Andrews from he. I felt like I don't know if he's been on. Maybe he watched the show or whatever. But he's always on Pierce. I think is Pierce Morgan or Pierce Bronson, whatever the guy named.
Pierce Morgan. Oh wow.
One of them. I don't know. I be mixing them.
And you're saying he watches whose show?
I think he watched the show. I talked to him a couple times. He's in University Birmingham City College. He has like the first Black Studies program in the UK. Kehinde Andrews. But
and what's he doing on Pierce Morgan's show?
Well, I don't know why he go on there. Every time they just be cutting him off. They don't let him talk. But yeah, I don't know why I actually don't know why he ever going. I don't know.
No, but what about him though? What?
No, I was about to say that at some point, we could probably bring him on.
Sure.
Because I mean, he actually wrote a book about, I can't remember the name. I have to show it to you later. Something about radicalism, but in the UK. So I think he'll probably be good to bring on to talk about some of that. Because when I was there, I saw a lot of the circulating the Black Pound, and that was like crazy. So.
All right. Well, all right. Let's take a quick break and come right back and get into the meat and potatoes of the day. Interesting. I'm saying that as a vegan. Let's get into the protein.
Speaking of vegan, there's a vegan festival coming up, and Mumu Fresh is performing.
I know, and I know, and I should go, but I'm not going to front. I'm probably not. It's very hard to get me out the house these days. I should go, but we'll see. She would get me. She's if anybody's gonna get me to go somewhere, it would be Mumu Fresh. So we'll see. It's a possibility. It's this weekend, isn't it?
Damn,
I think it's this weekend.
Oh, is it? Okay.
No, like this coming weekend. I think it starts today and this weekend, but I'll have to double check that, and maybe somebody in the chat knows. All right, quick break, and we'll come right back and get into the good stuff. I mix what I like. All right, so I went back. I kind of do this a lot, but I went back and looked at Blood in My Eye a little bit for today, and the BLA study guide that we've worked from a little bit in the past. And there were really, by the way, to those, I thought I saw somebody asking about, I thought Diallo was going to be here today. I don't know where he is. So
yeah, he's traveling back home, and his family didn't want to stop for a 2-hour break. So he had to keep moving.
Shameful. But so there were two things that struck me in my sort of, going back, and we'll definitely come back to both of these texts throughout the rest of it, really forever. But so just one quick point. One, that yes, Blood in My Eye and George Jackson makes it he's very clear. Armed struggle and guerrilla warfare is absolutely necessary and has to happen if this is going to get changed. I am not advocating that. I am not focusing on that, but I want to make sure we acknowledge that that's what he is saying. What I am focused on is the analysis that led him to that conclusion. And so my thing is always, as Kwame Ture used to say, the issue of violence is not up to us; it's up to those in power. If they don't, so if you don't want this kind of analysis, although I suspect that those in power are happy to make use of it, then make the material changes that are necessary. But what I like about what George does most of all is that, again, his analysis is clear, it's thorough, and it's directed at us, the majority. It's not one of these I'm going to speak truth to power things. And I loved how Ward Churchill used to make that point. Like, stop saying that. they're not listening, and you should be talking to your people. You shouldn't be speaking truth to power. You should be speaking truth to your people, and who encourage them to assume power. And that's what I like that. All right, so that's that. But there were 2 points, and I'm open to be criticized on this, because my mind might have made a stretch in finding a parallel here. But in Blood in My Eye, George Jackson talks about prestige, and the BLA study guide talks about the distinction between idealism and materialism. Now, obviously, both are working sort of out of this Marxist-Leninist framework. They both make similar use of it. Both obviously reach similar conclusions, George and the Black Liberation Army. But these 2 points, I thought, particularly for our time, struck me as very interesting. So, for instance, George talks about prestige, and I'm starting specifically on page 47. By the way, did you know, Geechee, that there's apparently a big thing in YouTube of copyright striking people who read people's books?
Nah.
I don't think we're going to run into that issue here, but I just thought that was deep. I've seen a number of people say, like, I'm only going to read like a page or two because I don't want to get, and I'm like, damn, really?
That must have just started, because there's a brother who read all the Black books. He got the same voice. I think he's from like up north. He's been reading all.
Well, it depends who owns the copyright. That's the thing. Like, if you're reading, like, I don't think we have to worry about it from whoever published this book, from Black Classic Press, Paul Coates. I don't know, Paul. I hope you're not mad at me, Paul. Forgive me, Paul. But, like if you, maybe if you're reading like a Random House book or something like that, something that you see on the airport bookstore, you probably get in trouble. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. But anyway, so again, to those who are more familiar with the text, or are equally familiar with the text, or just have a better understanding, I'm happy. Again, put it in the comments. If you think I messed up here, I'm open to that.
Put it in the comments.
What page you say?
47 in my copy, and I'm working from this version. And he says here, prestige stands between the masses and a revolt against their class enemy. The aura of magic, glamour, luster, and splendid performance covers the fascists like a protective layer of fat. The slimy scales of majesty shield and conceal the dilapidation of the old bourgeois reign of terror, although in reality nothing remains but the illusion. They can still organize violence, but the Indo-Chinese have proved that to be not too formidable. So it's that first part that really sort of struck me as I was going back again, and I had never previously underlined it in all the other times I've read the book. So it was a little bit of a I don't know. But this issue of prestige, and he comes back to it again on page 49, saying that prestige is an abstract and intangible. It has no material basis, no substantial objective reality to be perceived through the senses. One can't touch it or taste it, see it or smell it. It can't be heard. So how does it exist? Subjectively, in the mind's eye, after the fact of some connected circumstances that may also have been subjective. So how does it exist? Subjectively, in the mind's eye, after the fact of some connected circumstances that may also have been subjective. We're looking for connections. The materialist approach is to examine things in their total sequence, see them in process, not to merely establish their being in fixed sequential images, but to take in the state of being in process, infancy, maturity, decline, things in motion, proceed into things in motion. All right, so on the one hand, I just want to say again, because of this ongoing debate that I hear in my own head all the time, I want to help. I've always wanted to help bridge existing gaps between the materialists and the African-centered or Afrocentrists or nationalists, however people want to define them. So all I want to say to my nationalists who are getting upset already at the materialist and Marxist references, try to understand what these Africans did with that analysis. What did George do with the white man's analysis? And I think it's funny that there are some who literally sit with George's book behind them and speak ill of the white man and his socialism. But this is not venerating a white man. This is venerating whatever analysis is necessary to get people to the conclusions they need to get to. So as we continue to look at this, if people get mad at the materialism, I hear you in the reference to Marx and Lenin. I hear you, but remember the context and what these folks were doing with it, and then check your critique and what in your worldview is pushing you and yours to these same conclusions. So I know when I talk to my man, Dr. Haight, and he reminds that for all the African-centered of discussion of Ma'at, that they leave out the warrior function of that call to balance. That's what I'm talking about. Whatever your tradition is should get you to these same conclusions. And if they don't, like I think Fred Hampton used to say, you're asking questions that don't, answers that don't, you get answers that don't answer, you ask and conclusions that don't conclude. Okay, so in other words, so just those two simple things from George in this instance. Prestige being an immaterial attempt to encourage subjectivity, working against materialist analysis and a focus on changing the material world. All right. I hope that part came across as clearly as I had intended. Then I just want to share this one other piece from the BLA in their section on materialism versus idealism. And as he said on our platform, this is largely Daruba's writings. To begin, so I kind of like the idea that this is a conversation between Daruba and George. To begin, materialism in the Marxian sense does not refer to a philosophy in which one subscribes to self-aggrandizement through accumulation of wealth. By the word materialism, the Philistine understands gluttony, drunkenness, lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, arrogance, cupidity, avarice, miserliness, profit hunting, and stock exchange swindling. In short, all the filthy vices in which he himself indulges in private. But rather, materialism in the Marxian philosophy refers to the priority of that which is concrete and tangible over that which is intangible. But rather, idealism refers to the belief and practice of putting that which is intangible in the realm of ideas, spirit, etc., as having priority over which is concrete and tangible. In short, the age-old question of mind versus matter, dialectical materialism, or DM as it says here, discerns the priority of matter. So as I'm looking at this and hearing or seeing the parallel, in each case, George Jackson, Daruba, and the BLA are saying there is an attempt constantly by those in power to project immaterial dominance or superiority of the immaterial, a priority of the subjective. Not that these are, or my paraphrase, not that it's unimportant, not that there's no value to the immaterial, not that there's no room for the immaterial, but by prioritizing it, it makes room for people to constantly walk away from looking at the objective material conditions and saying we need something else to occur. So as again, because of my own myopic focus and work right now, all I keep hearing is an inducement to business development, Black capitalist development, an inducement to the woke imperium that Mott was talking about, where we subjectively look at our own individual experiences, identities, all that is immaterial to us as superior to the objective conditions of the people themselves, where we can say as is often the case in response to my work, as I just shared the other day in the Answering Critics piece, hey, I made money in Wall Street. I made money investing. I flip houses. And somehow that subjective reality is meant to stand in for the objective, immaterial, devolving conditions of the people. Yeah. So anyway, let me just stop there. That was the first. Oh, Geechee. Okay, my bad. So that was sort of where I was. I kind of got stuck in this. There are other forms of idealism which are more subtle and infinitely more dangerous. The dangerous idealisms fall generally under the heading of subjectivisms. So again, as I'm understanding this, it is again the obviously this is a section of the BLA document, and largely a lot of it goes through explaining how they've reached the conclusions they've reached, much like George explains in Blood in My Eye how he's reached the conclusions he's reached, and both of them are the same: armed struggle. But the pathway to get to that, I think, is a really important discussion for us in today's world that I was looking forward to have with Geechee and Diallo, and we have neither of them on available at the moment. So I will check in the chat here shortly. But I really got so those 2 points, really, this inducement to subjectivism and the immaterial, and then the point I was trying to make a moment ago about this ongoing struggle between what is a materialist analysis, or dismissed in some circles as the white man's analysis, and the what I still think is the important reminders and contribution of the nationalists and African-centered world, and reminding of what it means to be part of an African diaspora, and what it means to be an African, and what it means to particularly in the context of my man Dr. Haight, use that cultural reorientation to address things in a very material way. All right, Geechee's back. Okay, good. Let's see. Here we go. And then for this section in particular, I did wear my my petty shirt, reporting for duty, Petty Officer Ball. Because as Dhoruba and the BLA document makes clear, one of, and I think I think they predicted, or they were prescient in predicting the moment that we are in now. Whoops. One of the concerns and extensions of that subjective and immaterial focus, they argue, is that personality and petty individualism emerge. One of the knottiest forms of idealism one is certain to encounter again and again is in the area of personalism, petty individualism. This type of idealism is based on personal prejudice, personal habit, personal likes and dislikes, innate fears, childhood trauma, or any number of subjective reasons. It is expressed in a manner of giving pride of place to these factors rather than to do what is best for the whole group. It is as they say here, the bourgeois doctrine of individualism. So when I came back to this part, I as I read this, Geechee, and feel free to jump in. I said, this is the moment. Like this characterizes more than maybe even in their own time what is happening now. where from my humble perspective, this is a major problem in our broader quote unquote movement. There is too much encouragement. And I think, again, that this is part of the woke imperium and its attempt to say, oh man, I had a flashback of Garza seeing me at that Chicago meeting. I see you. I see you. And I guess part of my reaction is I'm not looking to individually be seen. I don't want to be seen. I don't care about being seen. There's a bigger, there's more that needs to be, but I feel like the woke imperium encourages that. I see the rainbow community and we're going to reach out to you. I see the darker skinned segments of your community have a particular need. I see you. Let's raise that up. Or even to my specific, oh, you don't see your story, little mixed man. We'll give you some more commercials. We'll give you more pop cultural references to interracial relationships and biraciality and so on. Just keep focusing on that. Keep looking for yourself. Keep looking for your own. So again, my point isn't that none of these groups or issues are legit. It's that there is an inducement, an invitation to make them the sole focus, to make them the primary focus. Anyway, my bad. Did you want to jump in? Let me.
No, I mean, I think, obviously, again, when we start looking at, I don't know if it's technically commodifying the Black August, but when you look at people who would kind of focus on a subjective analysis or even just black class analysis or any kind of analysis or understanding of imperialism and just more of like take the image of these people, it just seems like more people are concerned with commodifying these people and then redirecting what they meant to them, right? Excuse that. So I mean, we talked before about you have black business owners will say that you never know, Fred Hampton could have evolved and grown to black capitalism, or this person could have evolved into this. Not really studying what they said or what they didn't say, what they do, whatever. And I think that's the part of Black August that most people not most people, but a lot of people who celebrate it don't do the studying part. They're not engaged in some kind of studying with people who might not be in total agreement with them. It's more so of like surrounding yourself with people who go, yes men and yes women that's gonna just encourage you or even have that fandom. Like, because although we're trying to talk about collective, when you have your individual YouTube channels and individual podcasts, it's really hard for somebody not to see, a collective, and they just see you and your analysis, and they become a fan of you and everything that you say, as opposed to you getting them to critically think and even challenge yourself. I
do think that is a problem. This individualism that is encouraged through social media and all these platforms, for real, for sure. But but even still, if that individual's analysis is based solely on the subjective view of their own experience, that is, I think, more of a problem than even the individualism in the platform per se.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, that's one of those things of like, now there's a book, I think Diallo talked about it, about lying with stats or something like that. Lying with stats. I can't remember. A lying with data. And although I could see, a point of it, but a lot of people in those spaces of like, well, I know personally, I'm on the ground and I see this every day, and I'm like, you can't possibly see it from a lens where you're still looking at, even if you're in your little city, you can't possibly see the whole city and the whole state and not be biased towards your data that you're collecting. And if you are, then I think you should put it on paper or put it on audio and publish it so that it can be critiqued or responded to. You're talking about the peer review process. I think it'll be important for you, if you really feel like this is true, put something on paper, put some skin in the game, and then allow people to kind of deal with it there.
Craig, appreciate you. So the Woke Imperium, the article by Christopher Mott, and I'm going to paraphrase and probably throw my own, spices on it. The Woke Imperium is essentially just the idea that those in power, the state itself, the intelligence agencies, the counterinsurgency apparatus, is happy to use, as in the context of what we're saying here, the subjectivism of others to symbolically portray itself as improving. So they'll happily again bring in Latinas to recruit to the CIAs we saw in that commercial last year, or they'll promote the first all LGBTQ attack helicopter crew or something like that, or they'll or as we saw in the story I just showed a few minutes ago, the advertising community is consciously telling itself. Even in my buying power book, there was some discussion of this. The advertising community is consciously telling itself that Black people in particular want some reference to their Blackness in the marketing, that this is how you get them. So in other words, it's not an attempt to actually address the concerns that are being raised by an LGBTQ struggle or a Black feminist struggle or struggles within the Black community to raise up darker complexioned people who have been traditionally denied. In other words, there's no meaningful attempt to address any of that. It's just simply to say, oh, you all are protesting in the streets over George Floyd. Okay, let's add a story arc in one of our favorite TV shows that references protests in the street. Let's have one of our characters, somehow involve themselves or be involved on one aspect or another of that. Or let's show some rally happening in the background just to show some symbolic. So that's really what the Woke Imperium is. It's a symbolic false claim to make sure there is no material response to the actual problems. So actually, Geechee, the point you raise, I mean, is an important one. The social media, the media environment in which we find ourselves now is conducive to this. The social media, YouTube and all of these podcasts, it encourages an individualism. It encourages a focus on the self even. And then you can reward it. If you can, you can reward platforms, again, algorithmically. Again, please support Black Power Media however you can. If you can't financially, like, share, and subscribe, because algorithmically we're just predisposed to get yellow and red flagged. The advertising community, when they go through the transcripts of what we're talking about, and again, I don't have to be advocating something that they don't like. Just simple reference to the BLA is, they go Black liberation. No advertiser is going to want to put their money on that. And then it's not going to pop up. The videos don't get, show up when you click your little feed. It doesn't say, hey, check this out. It doesn't recommend this channel. All those kind of things start to happen even before you get to the overt, let's fund this and fund that and fund this and fund that. By the way, a new story in Bloomberg that just came out, a new story about an old thing that we've even talked about here about payola and podcasts. Again, everybody's paying $50,000, $100,000 to platform people. And let me know the next time you know somebody doing real grassroots work that can afford $50,000 to get on some Joe Rogan podcast. And then let me know, to the point, Keith, you're going up Piers Morgan. Let me know what the political value of that would be. Anyway, go ahead, man. Sorry.
No, so reading through both of those again last night, and then this point of the individualism, the podcast, and how at one point I think George Jackson was talking. Oh well, I think both of them talk about us being in the belly of the beast and we having an advantage. But I'm curious, especially in thinking about the Frankenstein analogy. I'm curious if you think that that's still the case when we are closer to these people, but that means we're more subjective to their propaganda, their misinformation, and we're also more likely to see them through the rose-colored glasses as opposed to how other people in other countries see America. Well, I don't know, say everybody sees soberly, because some people actually see America for the propaganda that they spread as well. But do you still believe or feel that that's accurate, that we have an advantage? We still have an advantage when the media apparatus and the misinformation tool, propaganda tool, like Dale Jones, the nigga factory, is even more sophisticated. Do you think that that's still a good assessment, or still a true assessment?
I think both arguments are oddly correct. I think that, again, Chomsky's credited with this. Kamal's favorite white man is credited with this, that propaganda is to democracy what totalitarianism is to a dictatorship. That the more of a threat you are to the more powerful state that this is, the more you are propagandized. So we are simultaneously the most threatening population and the most propagandized population as a result. And when I went back, when I finally caught up to the work of Yasha Levine in Surveillance Valley and read about how in greater detail than I can recall right now, how the state itself had been involved in trying to consciously create a media environment that would work against specifically Black people in the form of a counterinsurgency effort, as was being deployed in the 1950s at that time in Southeast Asia. That, to me, sort of like they knew what George came to learn 20 years later, and what got George killed. That we are the biggest threat, and therefore there is an entire counterinsurgency effort being waged against us as a result. So I don't know. I'm not always optimistic that we can overcome that, but I do recognize that that is the case. That the more propaganda, the more effort is made to, as they talk about in that BLA study guide, the three traits of the dialectics. If they have to work so hard to negate us, then, as Mr. Porter always reminds, we have to negate the negation. That they see us as the threat. That this much effort. So again, in my own myopic work, the tremendous effort to platform the Earn Your Leisures and the $1 Million Games and the Charlemagnes and the Harveys and all of those people, all of that effort is done to negate the threat that we all represent, that they themselves represent. Again, I keep laughing. Imagine if LeBron James, all 6'8", 280 of him, was in classrooms or formations like this, and was training not to dunk a basketball, but to dunk somebody's head. I mean, how scary would that be? Of course. I'd be like, please get that man $1 million, get that man $1 billion contract.
I think I always get caught up, even though Amos Wilson would always encourage you not to have hope, because when you give up hope, then people get revolutionary. But sometimes when he said things like, the most sellout-ish person that you can see could probably push us forward, right? And so when you see people mimicking on Comedy Central, mimicking Black Panthers and all these other things, sometimes you're like, well, what if they are doing some spook shit and they have to send diversions? But I don't know. I think, I don't think that I have any hope that any of these people in the position could like co-opt anything, especially with the misinformation that he's saying. I feel like they're doing way more harm than they could possibly do good if they was able to reverse something or alter something in there. And they're getting too much money too. So.
I tend to agree with you. just going through my notes here quickly. I just want to make sure so what I'm trying to say is also that prestige is prestige as discussed by George Jackson, because he's talking about, specifically George is talking about the prestige that is foisted upon this country, the state itself. Again, so myopically, I'm looking at the prestige foisted upon Black entrepreneurialism, Black business, Black capitalism, flossing, the drip, looking, all of those things are encouraged as a preventative measure against people reaching the conclusions that you're talking about, Geechee, or that we're talking about here. So people, I mean, how many times do we hear in our conversations, or people responding negatively to our work by saying, it's still the best country in the world. Where else you gonna be able to go from, as Biggie said, ashy to classy? Where else, Don King's, his whole, only in America, like where are you going to get that? By the way, that was the theme in the Hustle movie, Adam Sandler's Hustle movie. Only in America can you get an NBA contract and change your life. So the prestige that George is talking about is the protective symbolism masking the violence of the state, because he talks about underneath that prestige is the violence. Idealism in the BLA study guide, I think, equates to all non-material shifts and is used to discourage material shifts. So again, it's the same thing. Celebrity, social media, national narratives are all meant to project a version of this history, of this country and its history, as ever moving progressively towards something better, as ever allowing for an improved situation, provided you don't go in some revolutionary direction. In this way, I'm arguing that prestige of George Jackson mirrors the idealism of the BL discussed by the BLA, in that each work to distract from or protect against the likelihood of material struggle. The personal, the petty, and the woke imperium are all sort of synonymous. And then for me, there's only one other point I want to come back to from the BLA study guide, as it refers to this ongoing debate in the Pan-African community around, again. So for instance, I was just invited to that Pan-African conference, and forgive not the work or the workers, but the noise associated with the trash truck. Shout out to the trash, to the garbage workers, to the trash collectors. Peace to them, and forgive any noise that might kick in here in just a second as they come through and do their thing. But so I had just been invited to participate in this virtual Pan-Africanism or Parish conference, and I went through the calendar of events, and I saw that there was a presentation on another day from mine that was titled something like we don't need that white man's analysis, and it was something in reference to Marxism and socialism. And the first thing I thought of was the sort of the work that we're talking about here this morning. And so on the one hand, I'm saying, okay, we don't need the white man or the white man's analysis, but look at how useful it has been in the hands of some of these beautiful, brilliant African revolutionaries. So as I'm looking back again at the BLA document, and they're talking about the dialectics, defining it, and they go through the history of how dialectics started. There was its original form in Socrates in Greece, and then it got changed again by Hegel, and then it got changed again by Marx. And I won't pretend to be able to parse through all the details of the differences there. So I'm just going to acknowledge that the BLA document explains those differences. Those differences exist. I'm not competent enough to go through those differences. And honestly, I don't really care about the differences. Because as it says here, because what I'm interested in is how did the BLA make use of it, and why did they find Marx's dialectics useful? So as they say here, dialectics may be defined then as the dynamic or energetic interconnectedness and interdependency of everything in the universe, their influence upon each other, and how they change due to the motion of their respective internal contradictions. Now, every time I read something like this, or this line in particular, I'm reminded of one of the most controversial things I've ever said to a friend off the record, and we'll share here just to fully push myself farther into the margins. I can't prove, I haven't done enough of the work to prove it, and I would have to go back and read more of the literature again, and read more literature than I have to try to prove this. But when I read Marx talking about the dialectics, or when I read revolutionaries like the BLA talking about Marx and his dialectics, all I keep thinking of is how there really is no contradiction between what he is saying and what, for instance, Marimba Ani and other African-centered thinkers are saying about Africans' approach to the world. Marx, as a European, obviously could not approach the world as an African, but I think his own critique of the European tradition of dialectics was from the extent possible made Marx it's a Western, it's a white critique of whiteness. It's Marx recognizing the incompleteness and the insufficiency of European thought. So as they say in the next page, Marx rescued the dialectics and made them relevant to his own people and to people in struggle all around the world to this day. So then, as I wrote in my notes, and I'll stop here, Geechee, you can jump in, and I'll check the chat for all the hate and critique I'm getting there, and put it in the comments if you're seeing this later. I'll happily come back to it. So I wrote here, so in my notes, so Marx's expansion of the dialectics from Socrates to Hegel is his critique of the limitations of European thought. African world revolutionaries have done the same for Marx, hence Nkrumah, Taraism, Fanon, George Jackson, the BLA, etc. This is, so as Marx rescued dialectics from Europeans, the folks I'm referencing, these Black world revolutionaries, rescued the dialectics from Marx. And that was the range of thought that I got stuck in trying to prepare for this morning. So just a quick recap, that the BLA's discussion of Marx's critique of idealism is the same, obviously they're coming from the same political spaces, is the same as what George is saying in terms of the impact of prestige. All of it encouraging that we look only through our subjective experiences at the problem, eschewing objective analysis and eschewing material struggle. So go ahead, Geechee.
I was trying to see if Marimba Ani even talked about Marx, but I don't even see any reference to Marx.
Oh, she does.
But
yes, she does.
In your
Yeah, I know she does. I'm certain she does.
But I couldn't remember, but I was looking in the back to see if it was there. But I mean, one of the things that I always find interesting, your
audio is breaking up a little bit, by the way. I think you got a little what is it?
Is it like a lag, or
it's crispy. It's got a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just not clear.
How about now?
No, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead. We'll work through it. Go ahead.
No, but I was saying I find it ironic because you have to be basing whatever you're thinking off of some analysis. Like, for instance, if they say socialism is a white boy stuff, then capitalism, is whatever. But even some of the greats that these people say they study, I mean, she did a whole book on European culture and thought, right? And then Amos always told you about talking about or reading radical white people. John Henry Clark said the same thing. Right? So most of these people that are pioneers did study white people, radical white people or not. And that's why I think it's always interesting how people pretty much take what they want from people and then kind of move forward. Which, I mean, in a sense,
which I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing, and that's what. Yeah, go ahead.
In a sense,
and we really got to get your audio together, man. It's really bothering me. It's like crackling. That's the sound. It's crackling.
Yeah, I can't hear it, but yeah, go ahead.
It's just I don't know what your mic setup currently is or what the input settings are or whatever. I don't know. It's just crackling. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm on my iPad now, so I don't know if it's I can't hear it.
Mm-hmm. I know you can't hear it. I'm hearing it. She references Marx on 6. I know she's talked about Marx. I know. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm sorry. If you can't fix it, keep going. I'm not saying you got to be quiet. I'm just saying. So maybe look. At some point, I should just do attempt to really make my point about that. But really, I want to be clear. My goal, my interest, is to find the commonality and the useful commonalities between these two camps, the materialist and African-centered camps. I find great value in both, and I think the division and the hostility exhibited between the two is unnecessary, especially when I continue to argue. And I'm a little out of the loop at this point, but my experience was always that materialists didn't read African-centered work, and African-centered scholars, thinkers didn't read materialist work. So a lot of the critique of Marx comes from people who are not reading Marx, have never read Marx, and just hate him because he's white, which on some level I can understand, but it's just not an analysis. And then what I don't like is that all of these great people and movements and organizers and activists and people who have largely comprised the political prisoner community in the United States, they are somehow devalued and diminished because they took up revolutionary struggle in part inspired by the thinking and prior work of Marx or other white men like Lenin. And I just find that to be frustrating, to say the least. So part of what I'm trying, and again, I can't help it. I do see the overlap when I read these critiques of whether it's of the dialectics or well, yeah, just that. I think there's overlap there. And I think that there's a necessary contradiction or there's a contradiction that needs to be dealt with between those who would read a Marimba Ani or others like her and conclude we don't need to engage in any material struggle. Just as much as I would be disturbed and am disturbed by those who are being critiqued by the BLA and George in the way I'm framing them this morning, who would take a materialist analysis and reduce it to their own subjective condition. I tried to get into that a little bit at the end of last year, Coco, and we'll probably do it again, especially in wanting to bring in Walter Rodney's critique of that as well. But I don't have much thought about Stalin. I'm definitely not an expert on Stalin. My only thoughts about Stalin are that he is intentionally demonized by the West so that they can justify their imperialism and capitalism. And I don't think he's given a fair shake, similar to Mao. And I don't like how Stalin is just thrown on a list next to Hitler. But I'm certainly not competent enough to deal with that. Check Engine Jump, I think, is constantly misunderstood by that community, though. That's part of my point. I think I think Jop is referenced when it's convenient for his work on exposing the African origins of Kemet, and then he's ignored when he talks about the need for Africa to unite with federated states and what I would think is basically a socialist economy. So it's like, I don't see why, and then his history with the Marxist movement, et cetera, is again, folks, I appreciate all these suggestions. I don't know Grover Fur. I don't, so if you have suggestions, introduce us, send some of their work. I don't know. Yeah, read Stalin, sure. And I have and should and do more. I just don't remember enough. I've not studied Stalin. So I would probably prefer to say study Stalin rather than read Stalin. There's a huge difference between reading and studying, but I get the point. Anyway, that's it. That's all I had this morning. That's it. I think we've gone through all my notes. I don't know if you had anything else you want to add or get to, or if people have any particular other comments or questions, I'm happy to go through them. Otherwise, we can break a little early. I do, again, want to, honor and appreciate the history of Black August and to continue to commemorate it as best we can by encouraging a return to the source, pun intended, and a look at their work and how they use that work. And I just wanted to do a little bit of that today. And looking at what I saw was this overlap between prestige and idealism. Okay, Yipper, that's all right. It's all right. There we go, Big Teal. All right, good people. So the last thing I'll say is, as I put out, that announcement, I can't wait to share with you. I have to wait until December. So stay tuned. I'm very excited about it, but it's going to be a rough couple of months keeping my mouth shut on that one. But I have to. I have not interviewed Ashanti Austin. A couple years ago I tried to. It never got arranged. I know Renegade Culture, I believe, did relatively recently in the last year or two. But it would be good. Yeah, I'd be very interested in hearing from him again. And Marimbani doesn't have a chapter, if I recall correctly. There's no chapter critiquing Marxism per se. It's a general critique of all European thought, where Marx is brought up. My only point in where I'm seeing this the overlap is in this case is in Marx was working obviously as a European within the logic of Europeanism to I think ultimately was reaching similar conclusions in terms of Europe, how European thought impacts the world. But having had no experience with African thought and an African worldview, had no other way of putting it than to critique the European thought that was in front of him. So, and when I, when I read Marx and have read Marx, and when I read and go back and look at Marimbani and others in that space, I see more of an overlap than is given credit. And I think, again, for my purposes, to try to collapse these gaps that are encouraged within the African community, the diaspora, I would rather us find ways to make value of all of the above, and certainly to be less resistant of exploring Marx and Marxism, simply for the fact that it's of its positive impact on African and other world revolutions. it's certainly not to say Marx himself in his own lifetime said his own ideas weren't the all end all and be all or whatever. So nobody is saying that that should be the goal. It is to simply say, for me, that if Marx is going to lead to this and to the BLA, how can we condemn it? I mean, so it's an oversimplification. I get it, but that's really, I'm not saying Marimba's books are about Marxism. I'm saying that her work does condemn Marx and European thought, and her work is used by African readers of her work, who I would argue at least at 95% do not read Marx. Her work is used by Africans to condemn any reference or involvement of Marxist thinking among Africans. And I think that is a flaw, a shortcoming. Blood in My Eye, if I had to pick one, that is my book. That is my one book. So I just can't so really what I'm saying is, if you are Black and condemning George Jackson, and if particularly if that condemnation is because he studied white folks, then
I don't know if my crackling is still going on, but
it is. But go ahead, man.
But just to go back to the point, like every person that you named so far, they study white people. They wrote books about white people. Marimba Ani, John Henry Clark, which a lot of these people came from. Intellectual warfare. All these things come from John Henry Clark, who was very critical of capitalism, who called himself a socialist. Marimba Ani, you can read her book and you can come and see that capitalism doesn't work. You can see Amos struggle with capitalism throughout his whole all of the stuff that he put out. But I think still people are not willing to have that critical conversation or dialogue about capitalism. And I think that's kind of where we're back to. Like, reason why they can't love or respect George Jackson, because they're still dealing with loving capitalism. Or dealing with capitalism, not necessarily loving it, but dealing with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is, who would condemn Killmonger? They should be gone. You have to leave. I think it's time for us to define what we think means to be Black. I think it's important today, especially in light of woke appeal. I think that might be important to define. It might need that. So listen, my wife is calling, so I might need to go. I think I need to go. So let me just quickly say thanks to Ron Hall for becoming a member. Thank you very much. Black tanky shit. Wow. Okay. I don't know what any of that means. I don't know what tanky is, but thank you for the super chat. Soledad Jean Baptiste, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you very much. Okay, I answered that already. Thank you. I have a degree in marketing, and it was taught in many of my marketing and business classes as corporations market to Blacks because they believe Black folks watch more TV. It's not a belief. The studies, to the extent that they're accurate, the studies do say Black people watch more TV. I don't know. I don't have off the top of my head by percentage, but that is the claim. But again, to your point, they're not marketing to Black people to help Black people improve their economic condition or to explain their economic condition. I wrote a paper in college like 3 years ago analyzing the mixed couple phenomenon. Please send me that paper, Rashad. I mix what I like at gmail.com. I would love to read it. Black Power Media not having the same amount of flow through the algorithms. For me, whenever BPM is live, the little red icon to depict that they're live never comes on. What about for y'all? Yeah, I've heard similar things. I see my notifications when other people on the channel go live, but I don't know. Geechee, what you got coming up? Anything you want to let us know about before we get out of here? I don't know if do you hear me? Are you?
Nah, my joint is messing up. But nah, just like I said, this week or the middle of next week we'll put out the information about the Black August trivia. But that's all we're working on right now.
Okay.
And you make sure you answer your email. ML sends your email. I'll send you the text. You and then obviously Diallo. She's trying to get in contact with people about either supporting some kind of way, giving some prize giveaways or something like that. But I think she sent the email to you.
All right. I'll look forward to that. Yeah, I accept papers for review from remixers. Yeah, I would happily accept papers for review. Absolutely. Absolutely. Send me your papers and I'll get to them as soon as I can. I'm behind on a couple already. I'm behind on a number of different things, but not my essay though. Got caught up on my essay. So that's going to be out in by the 15th. But all right, good people. Geechee, big thanks to you again for coming through. Shout out to Brother Diallo and his family. I'm not mad at them. He's saying he can't have 2 more hours. Definitely, if we didn't get to something, I'm happy to check back. So please, if you have anything else to say that hasn't been said or I didn't address, please
put it in the comments.
And let's see, what do I have? Wait, real quick. What is something on Monday? What is happening Monday? Monday is Dr. Todd Stephen Burrows is going to lead the conversation that we're going to have with E. James West, I believe is the author's name, about the new book, Our Kind of Historian. Yeah, E. James West, Our Kind of Historian, the work and activism of Lerone Bennett Jr. So I look forward to that. That's Monday morning. Definitely stay tuned over the weekend for what's going to pop up with Warrior Class and Sundays and who knows what else is next. Peace, Geechee. And as always, as Fred Hampton used to say, to you we say peace if you're willing to fight for it, only if you're willing to fight for it. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Take good care. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.